So I've tried to record this a few times. I just wanted to do a quick video on my experience being homeschooled when I was younger. And there's so many things I want to talk about with this topic, or so I found through the multiple takes I tried to do, that I'm just going to narrow it down to one. And that was, what was a day like, in the life of a homeschooler? I imagine this might be interesting for people who were never homeschooled because it probably seems just like a crazy concept, or for people who were homeschooled who wondered, what was it like for other people? It changed a lot through the different years. That's one of the things that just sticks out to me, without thinking about it in depth. It's, just kind of working off the top of my head is, I think the first grade I did of homeschooling was the fourth grade, and then the last grade was 10th. And, different things happened in the family that kind of changed things and how strictly it was done, and, when we were allowed to be done with our day and all that kind of stuff. Which probably sounds crazy, in itself. Like, you could be done with the day at different times. So basically, I had two siblings. We were all in different grades, and we all would come down for breakfast, and then we would go up into our rooms, close the doors, and we would put in DVDs for the different classes. The program we used was a Becca. It was a Christian school. And I remember, sometimes the DVDs would be like, here is your math DVD. And it's like all the lessons for math. So it's like for every class, you switch it out. Math DVD, English DVD. Then for the younger, the earlier grades, it was basically like, this DVD is a day of school, or it was like 2 days of school, basically. And, you just go from class to class. I guess it's because, you don't trust the younger kids with the DVD, moving the DVDs in and out as much. But anyways, you put in your DVD, and then basically, this probably sounds crazy if you weren't homeschooled, but we kind of were on our own. I mean, there was so much freedom that at least I had. My experience was different than my siblings, but I basically let those DVDs run, and I paid attention if I wanted to. I didn't if I didn't want to. And it got more loose over any given school year, basically. Usually at the beginning it was more strict, and then by the end, basically as long as you filled out everything and got your grades, you were good. It's the weird thing is I'm describing it, and I feel like it should be more like I can't even remember all the details because it's so mundane to me. It also just feels like such a far off point in my life, but I'd imagine for other people that probably sounds crazy. I mean, some of it had the lack of structure had to deal with the fact that my dad was just working a lot. So, he wasn't there to preside over us, as we did our day. My grandpa would sort of be there, but he mainly worked with my older brother. There was a reason for that, I can't remember, but, he kind of gave the most structure. My brother kind of had the most structure because of that. And basically, my mom was not the type of person who should have been doing that. I mean, one, she still had all that housekeeping to do and a lot of the yard keeping, so it was difficult. But we also lived by my elderly parents, my elderly grandparents. So my mom was just taking care of them a lot, and we kind of got put on the back burner. And basically, the attitude my parents had was, well, you can, you guys, we trust you guys. You guys will get the work done. And I don't know how much of that they like consciously believed, or maybe some of it was like, you know, knowing that wasn't the case. But I can say for me, there was a ton of work that I didn't do, especially in the subjects I didn't like. I really liked English, especially in the last, maybe even the last 2 years, definitely the last year of homeschooling. I really liked English, and other than a few short periods, I pretty much did everything I was supposed to. I read all the books and did the different assignments and stuff. There were a few classes, like early on, we had penmanship classes. That isn't something that carried out all the way through, but we had those, which was a fancy, cool thing that a lot of public school kids didn't have. I'd imagine just most people don't write cursive today, and I can write really nice cursive. I get complimented on it all the time, and that was entirely my mother, because she was still involved in that point. She had kind of been pulled away by all this other stuff, and I don't even remember all the details of how she got me to do it, but basically she was really strict, and she yelled a lot, and she set very harsh rules that fortunately my dad didn't break, because he was sort of the soft one. He didn't break them in this case, and my mom made sure I turned out with great penmanship skills as a result. There were some other classes like history and that I liked to an extent. In a weird way, I think I liked the idea of liking history more than I actually liked it. Every year, I was waiting for World War II. When you're a kid, you're waiting, because that's the basically, before that, it's like, well, you got this side against that side, and basically because of the world we live in, you get taught that World War II is the first war where the bad guys were evil and the good guys were good. So that's really compelling as a kid, is this good versus evil narrative. I think it's also just all the weapons and hearing all the crazy stuff that was done during that war. You got some of that with World War II also, the gas, and when you're a kid, you love that kind of stuff. I mean, that can be a whole topic for another video. It's just something, the gruesome, gory stuff we were into as kids. Despite being raised as sheltered Christian kids, we loved that stuff. We weren't allowed to say it, but we did love it. Bible class was one I would sort of enjoy in the beginning, mainly because I liked the one teacher. He taught a few of those Bible classes, but I would be totally zoned out. I mean, and because it was Bible class, my parents kind of knew this isn't a class you need, for the real world, whatever that is. If any class gets slacked on, it can be Bible. So a lot of times I wouldn't even watch the Bible classes by the end of the year. I would put in the disc and then fast forward through it, because it made me feel less guilty. It's hard to explain why I would do that, but it was the thing I would do. And I did that with more classes as the school year went on. It was so. That would be the school day sometime. We get done at different times. I remember one thing my brother would do, and this is at very least he did a lot more of the work than I did, and he would sometimes get up really early. So he would, I don't remember if he skipped breakfast or not, but he would get up really early, do a class, and then I think he would come down and have breakfast and go back upstairs and get right back to classes, because he knew then, you know, he would he could have more free time. I mean, that was generally a standard. My mom's set is basically, if you get your stuff done, you can then enjoy your time. And I think there were, the one thing rule we had is, well, you can't go out and play too early, because then that will look suspicious if you're out running about and, you're supposed to be in school. But if we wanted to play video games or do videos, we could do that. I mean, that was a big part of it. I remember my brother, we used to do videos with our Transformers, and we had a digital camcorder, and we'd film stuff and give him voices, come up with storylines. He always liked doing new episodes, getting more episodes done, and we burn them DVDs. So the earlier he got done with his school, the quicker he could get to that. And, if you're getting done with the school day late, especially in the winter, you're left like, the sun's coming in the windows at a certain angle and the lighting doesn't look as nice, and he liked to get the videos with the nice morning light. And that probably sounds absolute, like, who cares, who even thinks about this stuff, but that was the kind of stuff we were really thinking about and prioritizing. So much of for me growing up too was doing different Transformer videos. We had a ton of the action figures, and we would come up with stories with them. We had a whole 45 episode series of with the Transformer Cybertron toy line, if you look that up. And one of the things that stands out to me about that is it's absolutely terrible. It's like, well, it's made by kids, it's probably going to be. But the thing is, if you watched our earlier videos, because we did ones, I think as early back as 2005, and it's like, they're better. They're sort of, I know this seems like I'm getting off track, but I'm going to pull it back into the homeschooling and being isolated. The early ones had better comedic timing, we never wrote them, but they had more original dialogue. We would cut things if there was a mistake in the video, and we'd refilm it. The editing was better. And by the end of it, the later ones we did were just absolutely atrocious, and the toys would be kind of like thrown around or whatever, and we just didn't care. And I think what a lot of it was we weren't getting any feedback. Early on we weren't, but it was new, so it hadn't like degenerated yet. And earlier on, we would show the videos to different people in the family more often, whereas later we didn't do that. I mean, we were even becoming more isolated from the people we would be seeing otherwise. And I think that's something that it's so easy to lead to degeneration if you have no outside criticism. That was another thing with our drawings. We drew a ton through a certain part of our childhood, and we never got any better. You know what? We did. I did have attempts at it where I sort of I drew things that are more detailed from more angles, but it was like the fundamentals never got better. And I never worked at it hard enough, and I think a lot of that was just not, having any outside force pushing. Maybe if you don't have that, those outside influences, but you have parents who are working with you, you can do that. But we didn't really have that growing up either. But anyways, yeah, This is a lot of the stuff I remember more from my childhood. We would, a lot of times when we got done with school and, we could go outside when the weather was still nice and it was the fall. Basically, there's this big area of land that we knew the guy who owned it, and he didn't do too much with it. He owned a church, and he would do events there, but he didn't do too much. And he had no problem with us going back there. So, that's what we did. We would walk the trails and play pretend and all that kind of stuff. Probably longer than we should have been playing pretend, but who's going to tell you otherwise? Uh, I do remember it was me who was the one who was basically like, this is weird. Like, I don't want to be doing this, this, at this age, basically. Um, you know, uh, I was, it was just, it's this weird world to think back to because, like, I had no I just didn't have a concept of anything. And this isn't me saying, oh, public school's the greatest thing. You gotta go do that and, send your kid there. That's the coolest thing ever because while I think there's some advantages, there's, if you're looking for like, well, how far does it take you in life? There are plenty of people I've known who, they went to public school, they did what people were supposed to do, and they just, sure, they knew more of the jargon of, the kids the other kids their age, but as far as the overall quality of their life, it's like, it's not better. They aren't anywhere better on the social hierarchy. They haven't reached their full potential. There's just, they're bitter, resentful, working crappy jobs, and can't get their life together, can't stand up to anyone. Just, it's not like I see going to public school as this great thing that's going to solve all your problems. And we never went to public school, even when we went to high school, which this was, I was the one who basically said I would like to go to an actual private school and led the way. One of the things that really surprised me was how, for as much as I skimped out, just speaking for me, as much as I skipped and stuff, I didn't do nearly as bad in school as I thought I would. Some of the subjects were surprisingly really easy, and it's just like, wow, so I skipped maybe 70% of some of these subjects, and I'm still doing better than a lot of kids and would be doing way better if I applied myself. The exception to that was math. I slacked on math as a kid, which, that's the thing is, most subjects in school, the ones that I probably felt were easy, it's like their memorization and stuff. Really, it's like, okay, yeah, but math is something where I was terrible at math when I went to a real private school. Now, part of that was I wasn't applying myself, and fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, the teacher I had for math just didn't really, like, she let us get away with so much BS, so I was able to get by with a passing grade with hardly doing anything in that class either. Not that math would have helped me directly in my current career trajectory, but it's definitely something useful. It works your brain, and I basically just skated by, through all of my youth of not having to do anything with it or ever really learning it. And one of the sad things is now is, I'm older and I don't have the time to study math, and I have a trigonometry book I'll open occasionally. I'm like, this stuff's really cool. It's really interesting. And I feel like I'd be like opening my brain to do it. I don't feel like I'm particularly good at math, but I like it. I'm probably not as fast as a lot of people are with it, but I think it's really interesting. It feels really great to solve problems, and I feel like I missed out on that. And that's like, that kind of bothers me. But, yeah, a lot of the other subjects, it's sort of, going into high school, it's like, well, crap, I'm still doing okay at this. Oh, another class that I do want to throw this in there. Uh, so I learned typing, on a compute, like the way you're supposed to type on a computer. I learned that in homeschooling, and that's another one that I think was actually useful. And for some reason, that was later on, but I just pushed myself through it. I don't know why. Maybe I just wanted to be good at typing. I can't remember, but I'm thankful for having that skill. Because I watch people, can't type the right way, and it's really annoying. Even though some people are very fast at it, it's still the wrong way to do it. Yeah, that going into high school, it was. Yeah, I don't want to get into all of it in this video. It's beyond the scope of the video, but it's not like I did nothing. I did music and I did performances and theater and drama. I loved speech class. I that was one of the things I did like in homeschooling is I would learn like memorize the poems and I would recite those for my mom and like different speeches. Was it? I think it's Mark Antony's one. Is it Mark Antony's? The one where his friends, Roman countrymen, lend me your ears. That speech, I loved that growing up. The Gettysburg Address was another one. I memorized that at a point, and I loved delivering those. And I loved doing that in high school, too. So, I don't want to get too much into the aspect of transitioning to a real school. That'd be a whole other video. But in the education aspect in itself, there were definitely some things I noticed where I was lacking. Workshop environments would be the big one where it's like, I didn't know how to navigate those and, take charge or fall in line when I was supposed to or work with other people or like all that stuff was off and I could feel it. I didn't want to admit it then, but, that was off. But a lot of the subjects, it was just like, no, there wasn't a huge issue there. The rigid structure of school kind of going to a real school bothered me because it's like we took a long bus drive to get to school and it was we got home at like 5 o'clock. So when we were doing homeschooling, we sometimes got off at 1, even 11:30 in the morning. And now it was like 5. So that was a shock. And honestly, no job I've worked has been that bad as going to high school. I mean, that could be its whole own video. Like people look at high school like this great thing, and for me, it was just like it just felt like this confining structure. I couldn't break out and do anything. I was also just like a little prick. I was just stupid in high school, but I think I had some legitimate complaints about it. But yeah, there's more I could talk about with homeschooling. Not going to really talk about it in this video. It's a totally bizarre, different life, and honestly, it feels like worlds away from me now. Because anymore, I spend so much of my time working a job, full-time job, and then I run a YouTube channel on the side, and I've been dating someone for the past few months, and that's taken up some of my time, a lot more of my time than that used to just be my own. So it's like I don't have time to think about this, and it doesn't. When I talk at work and talk about growing up, I don't even. It's not like I have this great fear of mentioning that I was homeschooled. It really doesn't come up because I don't even know why. I just if it did though, when it has, I have no problem mentioning it. Maybe part of that is because I was only homeschooled for a portion of growing up, as opposed to some people, it's their whole thing, and that might really affect them. But yeah, that's something I have mixed feelings on, and there's a lot more I could talk about in other videos.